Well, we were just talking about in our overreaction segment about whether Dune can actually make more money than it would have if it wasn't a part of Doomsday. But I've been, kind of hit with a lot of questions. Is it still a good idea for them to do Doomsday, having not just two big movies, because it worked for Barbenheimer, but these are two big movies that are both trying to appeal to the same kind of audience. And that's definitely not what Barbenheimer did. So can it work? Can it not? And the big question becomes, how big can that weekend be? As a matter of fact, one of our viewers asked me straight up, could Doomsday be the biggest weekend in box office history? Could it be the biggest weekend in box office history? Well, of course, in order to even contemplate that question, we have to get the vagueness out and actually put some numbers to it. Like, how big would the weekend need to be in order for it to be the biggest weekend in box office history? Because right now, the two biggest weekends in the history of the box office are these.
Is this domestic or worldwide?
Talking domestic, because you can only
I just want to be clear.
Yeah, and for the audience, the reason why it's foolhardy to talk about worldwide opening weekend is because every movie opens in a different number of countries. One movie may open in 15 countries one weekend. One movie may open in 65 countries in one weekend. It's it's folly to even try to talk about that. That's why whenever we're talking about opening weekend, we are always talking about domestic opening weekend, because that's the only way to compare apples to apples. So with that said, the biggest opening weekend, not just the biggest opening weekend, the biggest weekend, period, in cinematic history right now is this: the weekend of April 26th through the 28th in 2019. It made $402 million at the box office, with 357 of that being the opening of Avengers Endgame, 8.3 million of it coming from Captain Marvel. That was in its 8th week, by the way. Captain Marvel was in its 8th week and still at number 2. And in third place that weekend was The Curse of La Llorona at $8 million. La Llorona. For a grand total of $402 million. Now, the second biggest weekend in box office history was July 21st through the 23rd, 2023. That weekend made $311.4 million. Barbie, that was the Barbenheimer weekend.
Right.
Barbie made $162 million of that. Oppenheimer made $82.4 million of that. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning made $19.8 million of that. So, in asking the question, can Doomsday become the biggest opening weekend of all time? We are asking, can it surpass that 311 of 2023? And can it pass this 402 million of the April 26th through 28th weekend of 2019? All right. Let's break it down to the X's and O's, shall we?
Ooh.
Putting aside all the other movies that are going to be in theaters already that weekend. So put that aside for a second. Can the combination of Doomsday and Dune 3 make $400 million? Okay. Endgame made $357 million. I don't think Doomsday is making that much opening weekend. But could it make $300 million? Like $57 million less? I don't think that's impossible. I don't think a $300 million opening for Doomsday. I did think that three months ago. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. Now I kind of believe that $300 million opening weekend might be in the cards. Okay, so significantly less than Endgame, but still $300 million. Can Dune 3 make $100 million? Well, let's look at the pattern. Dune 1, Rob, just see if just gonna.
I was just looking this up.
Oh, well, if you looked it up, then I can't ask you the question.
Oh.
Dune 1 made $41 million in its opening weekend. It doubled for the second one. Dune 2 made over $80 million. And it, I believe, is the best film of the last 10 years. So it doubled its box office from 1 to 2. Is it out of the question that Dune 3 could make $100 million opening weekend? I don't think that's a stretch at all. I don't think it's remotely a stretch. So theoretically speaking, if the believable circumstance that Doomsday makes $300 million opening weekend, still significantly less than Endgame, but still, And if it is conceivable that Dune 3 can make 100 million, well, it's going to easily top that $402 million mark, because then you got to add in the 20, 30, 40 other $1 million is going to be made from the residual of all the other movies that are already in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So can we sit here and say that it will become the biggest weekend in the history of box office? We can't definitively say that. There's several things that could go wrong here. As a matter of fact, if the first big trailer for Doomsday comes out and it's not very good, I mean, that could throw a lot of cold water on this. But I'm going to sit here right now and say, you know what, Rob? It's possible. I'm going to say right now, it is possible that Doomsday does become the biggest weekend in the history of the box office. Anyway, talking about a lot of numbers here, down to it now. What's your gut saying? Can Doomsday beat that $402 million mark for the biggest weekend in box office history?
Well, like you said, it's a possibility. I would not immediately discount it. You're talking about the biggest weekend of all time domestically. But with Avengers Doomsday could very well at least make, I could see it getting to 300 million depending on how many screens. And then you only need Dune to make 110, 120.
By the way, the brand new Jumanji movie is going to be in its second or third week.
I have a list here if you want to hear it.
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, in its fourth weekend, we'll just go 4 weeks back. In its fourth weekend, you're going to have Hunger Games Sunrise on
That's still going to be making a little bit of money.
You're going to have Disney's Hexed animated film. Don't know how that'll be or not.
Unknown.
Father-in-Law won't be that much, but that'll be in its third weekend. Violent Night will be in its second weekend.
Now it's going
But Jumanji 3 will be in its second weekend, and then Avengers and then Dune 3.
So you figure between Jumanji 3 and Hunger Games and those films underneath, I think you can count on 30 million.
At least.
30 to 40
million? If Jumanji's in its second weekend, even if it drops 50%.
And we don't know how good.
Well, it's going to drop 70%. It's going to drop 70%.
Even if it drops 70%, then you still think.
I'm thinking 30, 40 extra million on top of what Dune and Doomsday make is realistic.
Which means then Avengers Doomsday only has to make 270.
Yeah.
And then whatever other, I think it's a possibility.
Yeah. I think it is far more like, again, if you had asked me this question a month ago, I would have said absolutely not. I still don't think it's a good idea to release both of these movies on the same day and blah, blah, blah. But today, with like the new information and seeing how the audiences react to it, I think it might be possible. Again, I wouldn't bet money on it.
No.
But I wouldn't bet money against it either.
Mm-hmm.
Although I might put $100 on the poly market on this.
All right, guys.
Jumanji 3 is going to have a massive drop for its second weekend.
70% minimum. 70%
I'm on the waiting list,
drop.
by the way.
But I bet you Jumanji 3 is going to make a lot of money on its opening weekend. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think Doomsday, December 18th, that weekend, could end up being the biggest weekend in the history of the box office, eclipsing the 402 million of the opening weekend that saw Avengers Endgame come in, still had Captain Marvel and others? Do you think it can do it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.